computer. Okay, so you have a lot of different possibilities to choose from, and I have your slides, but I've only received uh, one or two essays, which is not important because I don't expect to receive them. You
Right.
should read them, but I have received one or two, and so I have a slight idea of what one or two of you are going to say. Um, but I think we should start and see. Let me think of how to do this. Okay, so share this desktop. Okay, so we're going to start with. Um, oh, wait a second. Wait a second. Ah, okay, we're going to start with John. Do you mind? You have to unmute yourself. John?
I'm coming. I'm here.
Okay, great.
Okay. I wish it were bigger. The one you had up earlier was a little bigger, but I guess
Um,
I did my best to fill the page.
no, you put them together.
Really
You should
bigger.
put them one and one.
Okay.
You sent this to me together.
Okay.
So that's the issue.
Okay. Okay. So I titled this comparison Distance in the Paintings of Pieter Bruegel and Gerhard Richter. On the left, we have the titled Numbering at Bethlehem, uh, painted in 1566. And then just over 400 years later, Townscape Madrid by Gerhard Richter. So two townscapes essentially. In both paintings, the artists have chosen to pull back and render each city from a God's eye or distant aerial point of view. The effect and the intent, to quote Richter, is to make everything equally important and equally unimportant.
Mm.
Distance in these paintings acts as an equalizer and as a foil. The Holy Family becomes no more, but no less important than the peasant butcher. Since each painting takes in such a wide scope, no one narrative is in danger of becoming too dominant, sentimental, or didactic. And from Richter's removed, alienated perspective, a human narrative appears undermined altogether. While both paintings share visual motifs, a very limited, almost monochromatic palette, repeating diagonals, hundreds of minute details, the cinematic vantage point from above makes both townscapes appear found, as if discovered, wholly composed and unencumbered by artistic decisions. For me, the paintings are vertigo inducing, and the resulting art is evergreen, honest, and real.
No,
And that's period.
that's terrific. Terrific. Excellent.
Thank you. A result of slow looking, thanks to your encouragement. I would also say the one of the catalysts for me getting off on this narrative was the quote, this concept of equally important, equally unimportant, but also reflecting on what's been said in class as regards Bruegel, who we talked about. The somebody I can't remember the name. Uh, he appears non-judgmental, and
Yes.
I really love that. And then Simon, you yourself said you were commenting on one of the paintings. I think it was the Massacre of the Innocents, and you said it looks like a war scene from Gaza or something like this.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And if these, even Bruegel's perspective 400 years ago reminds me of a very mechanical sort of eye, as if he just came over this precipice,
Yes.
which has to be imaginary.
Yes.
There's nothing in that town that's that tall. He's hovering over the river. So
Yes.
there's a mechanical like eye that's staring down like a, Hitchcock when he pulls back in the birds and just looks down on all the movement and chaos and
Yeah. I must say that you can't see what I'm doing here, but I have index cards out, and every now and then I look down and write what you're saying. So
Mhm.
because it's so interesting, the equally important and unimportant, and so if I don't write it, I sort of forget it. If I
Mm.
write it, I can always refer back to it. So I would encourage you to, within reason, try to jot down things that everyone says that is memorable because people come up with amazing things here, and
Mhm. Mhm.
you shouldn't forget it. It's really interesting. Um, so
Well,
John, you're the icebreaker. So I really thank you.
okay. Well, thank you for the assignment.
Well, yeah, yeah, really came through very well. Um,
Thank you.
so let me see. Let me do this. With that. Um, good. Hmm. Is there someone who can help me in terms of
I believe, Simon, if you just strike your page down button, you'll go to the next page, assuming everything's in the same PowerPoint.
the down button is on the far right?
Page down,
Yes.
PGDN.
Yeah. It
It's
could, the far right might also function.
not the far right for me.
Okay.
Hmm,
Let me try this one.
Not me either.
Um,
On your keyboard is what I'm
on the
saying.
keyboard, um, oh, I got it. I got it.
Or
Um,
that little arrow
yeah,
down,
yeah,
that
I got it.
should
I
do
got
it
it.
too.
So,
There you go.
so this is Richard, and Richard got very worked up about everything and sent me 6 slides. Really, 2 or 3 would be great, but he sent 6. So I'm going to show you the 6 that he sent. So this is the Bruegel painting, The Triumph of Death, and then there are 5 of Holbein. Holbein,
Mhm.
5 of these. So these are this group and this group. So there
Mhm.
are 5. I'll try to intermingle that with what he says. So, Rich, you go.
Okay. The title of this class is Art and Perception, and Simon has emphasized that our subject is visual, not historical. In this essay, I attempt a phenomenological reading of Bruegel's painting The Triumph of Death, 1562. This essay is informed by the thinking of the French philosopher Maurice Merleau-Ponty. In his major work, The Primacy of Perception, Merleau-Ponty claims that perception is the foundational mode of our access to the world. It is prior to reflection, science, or representation. That is, prior to the linguistic separation of the world into subjects and objects. This is a condition that the Japanese philosopher Nishida Kitaro describes as pure experience. What I want to suggest is that Bruegel's Triumph of Death can be viewed as an expression of the world, a field of experience, rather than as a mental representation of the world. By way of comparison, I will use a series of woodcuts with the title The Dance of Death, 1523, by Hans Holbein the Younger. This work consists of 15 woodcuts. We will only look at a few of them. Both these works are commonly described as being allegories on the theme of death. The question being posed here is, what is the perceptual experience of looking at these works? And if they are allegories, what are the lessons to be learned? The focus is on the experience of space, time, and music in each work. So if we look at the first image by Holbein on the right of the screen there, we see that what is happening here is a story is being told. And in the first woodcut, we see an image of the fall from paradise. The fall is usually read as the beginning of space and time, as something created that comes into existence exterior to the transcendental godly realm of the Garden of Eden. In this image, and part of it is being blocked by, in my screen, by images of people in the class. But anyhow, in this image, the origin of space and time are indicated by the personification of death, a skeleton.
Is this better?
Accompanying. I'm sorry?
Is this better?
Well, what's happening is that your image, the image of your face, is blocking part of the first woodcut, and what we need to see in that woodcut is what the skeleton is holding. He's holding a musical instrument.
Okay.
And right now we can't.
Okay.
Right now we can't see it because your face is blocking that. But anyhow.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Trust me. The skeleton is holding a musical instrument as he accompanies the first couple into our world. Death carries a musical instrument suggesting that time is kept by death. A musical beat measures the time of life and its end. Each of the additional woodcuts, and Simon, if you want to show those others now, that would be good.
Yeah.
Each of the additional woodcuts represents a specific individual and the specific location where time stops in the dance with death. And the first one shows a king sitting on his throne. The next one is a bishop being taken from his flock. We see a plowman out in the field with a skeleton coming alongside of him. And the final one is of a child taken from the familial hearth.
Mm-hmm.
Each of these individuals, I've lost my place here, hang on a second. Each of these individuals has a specific melody and pas de deux in their dance with death. The experience of this work is intellectual. It presents the idea of death as having for each person a particular leitmotif, but the end is the same for everyone. This is an example of what has been called a memento mori. Remember, you will die. And the allegorical lesson, I would say, is fairly obvious. If we go back now and look at the painting by Bruegel, I think we can see here that space and time do not come into existence in this painting. What we see is a field of desolation and death is everywhere. There is no transcendental beginning, no inside or outside. Space just is. Death is not personalized or localized. It is everywhere. There is a question, however. What are we to make of the container with the cross? People are seen disappearing into it, but there is no sense of where they are going. They just disappear. Time does not appear to be kept. If time exists at all, it is dissonant. On the far left side, we see a skeleton on a wagon of skulls playing a hurdy-gurdy, while a group of skeletons dressed in choir robes sound trumpets. In the background, church bells hung from a tree are being sounded, but there's no church in sight. In the center, a dark figure on a burning building sounds a trumpet. On the right, a skeleton beats kettle drums as people disappear. There is no harmony or leitmotif here, there is only cacophony. The chaotic hopelessness of this image is underscored by the couple in the lower right corner as they cling desperately to a piece of sheet music. As a skeleton playing a guitar hovers, playing a different tune.
Mm-hmm.
One might see the hint of a narrative in this image of the lovers or the one of the king and his money. But these are just blips, hints of a possible story from another world, perhaps the world represented by Hans Holbein. The experience of Bruegel's work is visceral. It does not represent the idea of death so much as it expresses the finitude of death. As noted, there are traces of the idea of memento mori, but all those Christian crosses seem more ironic than hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, after Simon's suggestion last week that we look slowly, I took another long look at this painting crowded with all its incredible images. I said above that there is no transcendental image of creation in this work, and I think that's right. But in the left center, just adjacent to the robed skeletons, and you have to look really carefully and hard to see it. We don't have a really large picture, but adjacent to those skeletons with the trumpets, there is a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And under the bridge is a circle of light.
Mm-hmm.
And in the center of the circle in the water, there is a face. You can hardly even see it on what we're looking at here, but it's there. I don't know if we can make it bigger or not. Anyhow, I wondered, what was Bruegel thinking? Why did he put that face there, and who or what might it represent? The bridge itself might stand for a transitional threshold, bracketing a tiny hole in the fabric of space. The face might act as a lived residue of existence, a soul or identity that continues to see and remain present even under the finitude of death. These ideas gave me the fanciful idea that the face might represent Bruegel himself. And the painting we are looking at is a telescopic view of what Bruegel sees. And we are looking back from the wrong end of the telescope, so to speak. And the face we see at the tunnel, at the end of the tunnel, if you can imagine the tunnel from this telescopic view going back to the face, what that face might actually be Bruegel himself. And we are looking back at the telescopic view from the wrong end of the telescope, so to speak. And what we see at the end of the tunnel is Bruegel's eye looking at the face of death. That's what I got out of looking slowly at this painting.
Thank you so much. Very, very interesting. I don't want to make too many comments because a whole lot of you is going to be speaking, but one comment, which, maybe borders on superficial, is that the Holbein woodcuts are as small as the Bruegel painting is large.
Hmm.
So the Bruegel painting is maybe 64 inches in width, and the Holbeins are 2.5 inches high,
Hmm.
2 inches wide,
Wow.
2.5 inches high, 2 inches wide at the most. The, the dimensions are slightly smaller than that, but rounded up 2.5 inches high and 2 inches wide.
Wow. Hmm.
Um, and it's a very striking series, many woodcuts on the same theme. Um, so uh, I'm, I I know people would like to speak, but let's do that a little bit later, maybe towards the end, so we can get in a lot of people here. Um, so the next one I have um,
No,
uh,
you went the wrong way.
is um, Philippa, which is these two. Could you start, Philippa?
Um, yes, and I hope I have no college experience. I don't have experience writing essays, and I went down a Bruegel rabbit hole this week. I watched movies. I bought the book that recommended, and I wrote all afternoon and tried to condense it and not go over time and stick to what you wanted. And I have no idea if what I ended up with is actually what was expected. So anyhow, so I'm the first one I'll refer to is the one on the right, which is The Dark Day. Um, and I couldn't look at these without thinking a little bit of the history of the area because it was a brutish time. Um, they were oppressed by an unforgiving physical environment. They lived on the coast of the North Sea, which is known for cold and storms. Um, they were also oppressed by the dictates of society and religion. So their simple lifestyle was very important to them. It was best to keep your head down, I think, because there were external and internal dangers. And I think there was a crossover of the visual language that Bruegel used um, that peopled the subjects that peopled his paintings. In A Dark Day, there has been a storm, and the coast is littered with shipwrecks. Presumably, there were deaths. So the dark day was not just the gray sky, but perhaps the overall pall of what had happened. The villagers, though, are going about their day. They're copsing a tree, picking up fallen wood. There's a man who's, you can just barely see the hole in his thatched roof. Those were thatched roofs were actually outlawed later because they were dangerous. But you see the vista behind in the foreground. He always uses he has such a clever way of using his reds and his whites. It's not, you can't quite see the effect of the reds in the smaller image, but the earth tones in the foreground and the way the coastline curves around gives, I think, some solidity, some warmth to the feeling of the village there. I can't quite make out what there's a couple with a small child wrapped up for warmth, carrying a lantern. It looks as though the man is maybe eating a sandwich and holding a paper up, but I really could not determine what was going on there. But you see the even in dark times, you've got this beautiful vista behind the mountains that he loved so much, that he came to paint when he went through Switzerland after his time in Italy. But I think the peasants' world was very close because of the environment. They themselves didn't travel, didn't have much education, and he made comments about that. On the left, I think that's all I had to say about that one. On the left, the Triumph of Death. By, by the time I got to really looking at this painting, my mind was so full that I was kind of struggling towards the end because there's so much there. But I think Bruegel had this visual language that really he humanized moral subjects. I think he shows that these issues are timeless. There are things that we have been dealing with as long as there has been mankind. The first thing I noticed when I looked at this painting in a larger format was, first of all, there's some similarity, I think, to the other landscape, except now it's devastated, but it could very well be the same landscape. There's only remains of one tree there, and it's hollowed out, and it looks as though there's a man defecating inside it, which, says something about how little value they placed. They just destroyed it with, I'm assuming, moral corruption, and nobody is spared. There's death everywhere. He first takes me through a zigzag through the painting, and my eye goes to the horizon and that blue sky that silhouettes the Gallo, and those strange, surreal structures where people are tortured or killed. I don't know if there ever was such a thing, but it's pretty horrific. But then my eye went down to that white tablecloth, and I noticed a jester and somebody who's dressed in finery who clearly isn't prepared for the fight and seems taken by surprise. And then the two lovers in the corner, he playing music. And Sylvia Plath actually referenced that couple in a poem that she wrote. And then my eyes move across the bottom, and I noticed the king in the corner with his crown and his red cape. And the red cape is a slightly different red than the other earth tones he used. So once I saw him there, I couldn't not see him. And it seemed to me significant that was a king. And again, it made me think that we're dealing with all the same things today that man has always dealt with. And it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're wealthy, whether you have stature, or you're poor, death is going to take you the same way. It's a great equalizer. Sorry, I'm actually not reading my essay. I'm just talking. Yes, I apologize. I'm not very good at this.
No, Philippa, just stop,
Yes.
stop for a second. You're doing
Okay.
so well.
Oh, thank you.
This is a fantastic example of slow looking. You're taking us through the textures and adjectives and adverbs of the two paintings. So
Oh,
it's exactly a great, you've done a great job.
oh, well, I'm pleased. I'd be happy to stop there if you're happy with that.
No, I really mean this. You've really followed this idea of slow looking and finding different things, and maybe behind the idea of slow looking is another idea, which is if you follow the tenets of slow looking, you're getting your money's worth on planet Earth.
Mhm.
Okay, that's my
Yes,
opinion. Okay.
that's a good way to put it. I appreciate it, and I did truly went down a Bruegel rabbit hole this week. I have so much respect for him now. I mean, I've
Terrific.
always been a fan, but amazing. Thank you.
Terrific. Let's come back to you a little bit later. Um,
Okay,
so,
sure.
so
Thank you.
yeah, no, that's great. So the next one I have is Sylvia, which is this one. Sylvia?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I just love what Philippa shared, and
Thank you.
it feels like such a big leap to something that is just very different. Um, so here is Gillespie. On the train on my way to the Gillespie's exhibit, I read that he took his own life in 2000. Having worked in suicide prevention for 20 years, I could not shake off that thought while I looked at his remarkable work. One of the two paintings I chose for this essay is called Triumphant. Gillespie completed this portrait in 2000, just a few months before he died. It is oil on wood, which Simon explained allows for a different kind of texture. It shows the painter in what I imagine was his own studio, the simple stool, the drops of paint everywhere, including on his pants and shoes, altogether not too different from what I see when I visit Simon's workspace. There are two paintings with the same title. In one, the colors are exceptionally bright. There is a green window drape that almost hints to a stage. Framed by the green and the blue is an older Gillespie. In the second painting, called Triumphant 2, which is the one you're seeing on the screen, Gillespie himself looks about the same, although the pens could be different. But gone are the bright colors and the green drapes, replaced by a subdued palette of grays. Unlike other portraits in which his face looks expressionless, Gillespie is grinning in a disconcerting fashion, and his arms are raised in a celebration, leaving me to speculate what a man who is contemplating that could be triumphant about. Roman Interior is the second painting. Roman Interior is instead a still life that he painted in the 60s when he lived in Rome. Not unlike Triumphant, this painting is adorned in comparison to some of his other work. You know this is Rome because the small window frames what looks like a Castel Sant'Angelo. You know this is Italy because there is a bag of espresso sitting on the windowsill. But there is also an Italian quality to the texture of the walls that reminds me of my grandparents' kitchen. The centerpiece is a rectangular table covered by a checkered tablecloth. A wrinkle suggests that someone was sitting at the table moments before and that they disturbed the tablecloth when they left. At first, the image brings up a feeling of modest domestic life, but a closer look conveys an impression of absence, emptiness, and loneliness, as if life were what happens outside the walls of that small kitchen. And that's all I got.
That's pretty good. Thank you. Thank you. That's really good. Um, yeah, let's leave it at that and come back to this if there's time. So the next one that I have is Kathy Titakis.
Okay, hi everyone. Yes, I chose these two paintings. Now that I have a short essay, actually, I'm kind of a new kid on the block here. So I tried to use some slow looking, as Simon explained. And this is basically all from my brain about what I think of the paintings. So here we go. In thinking about comparing and contrasting two of Bruegel's paintings, Hunters in the Snow and Peasant Wedding, two aspects to consider are the use of space and light. In hunters, the space is vast and far-reaching with overcast sky. Apparently, most critics state that the hunters are back from the hunt empty-handed. I see the painting differently. They are off to the hunt. They plow through the snow with their long walking sticks, which provide a wonderful juxtaposition in the painting, providing balance to the hunters as they trudge in the snow. They are at the top of a cliff overlooking a serene, perhaps idyllic scene of people working and engaging in all kinds of activities. Where will the hunters hunt? Will they trudge across the ponds where people skate and play? Or are they headed for the mountains in the far distance, the mountains that remind one of the crashing surf of a Japanese print? Why is the head of the third hunter dark and obscured? Will he return? 3 crows hover overhead as if waiting for carrion. The sky is foreboding and the eye is drawn to the far right where the sky darkens still more. A dark sky that portends danger and death. In Peasant Wedding, there is little space to be found. So many figures crowded and cramped together. People are reveling in happiness and fellowship, portraying the opposite of danger and death, depicting good fortune and companionship. The large walking sticks that guided the 2 hunters to death and destruction are replaced by the tall, large, cylindrical drones of the bagpipes of the 2 musicians, one of whom appears to look back at us, the only figure to do so in either painting. The bags are made of animal hide. Is he telling us this is a fortuitous use of the hunter's prey? We see no faces in hunters. In Wedding, we see the faces of almost every figure, all with their hands open, either working or eating or gesticulating, all actions of daily human life. Only the bride has closed eyes and clasped hands as if in prayer. The crow in Hunters has been replaced by a crown over the head of the bride. The crown signifies power and self-confidence, quite different from the symbolism of the crow. The green blanket on the wall implies springtime and new growth, fertility, perhaps. So there is vast space in one painting and very little in the other. The diagonal in Hunters leads the eye to the far right and a darkening sky. In Wedding, the diagonal is the opposite, to the far left, leading to the only window in the painting, bringing in welcoming light and air. To me, Bruegel is a master of telling differing stories of life without a word.
Wonderful. Just quickly, because I don't want to take time away, but quickly, you've really hit the high points of what I had asked you to do in terms of the essay, which is to describe what you see, to have some point of view about it, and to include slow looking. Um, I couldn't help thinking, maybe because of Sylvia going before you, but I couldn't help thinking of whether Mr. Bruegel could be bipolar. Uh, let's leave that for later. But I'd be curious to hear Sylvia's response to that. The next one is Anna, which is this one.
Okay. Um, let me read what I wrote. In 1971, my parents gave me my first art book, The The book was extremely large and contained numerous black and white as well as color photos of Peter Bruegel's paintings. I don't remember if they gave me this book because I had already expressed a love of Bruegel or if the book's possession resulted in that love. I do know that I have kept that book by my side ever since, even transporting it to the schools where I worked, as if somehow its presence in my office would be an inspiration for all children.
Wow, terrific, terrific.
It was not so much Bruegel's eerie images that fascinated me, but rather it was the paintings of everyday life. There was something about peering into the world of the mid 1500s that compelled me. This is the reason I have chosen two paintings from 1565, both of which give the viewer a glimpse into village life almost 500 years ago. Winter Landscape with Skaters and a Bird Trap is a panel painting in oils, as is The Hay Harvest. Both paintings clue us into the world of the villagers while also astounding us with the beauty and the power of the landscape. The composition of the winter and summer scenes superbly reflect Bruegel's world. In the winter landscape, we see the ice skaters on the frozen river, with our eye being immediately pulled to the birds further away in the sky, as well as the closer bird framing the rectangle in the top right-hand corner. From the bird in the tree to the lower right hand of the painting, where we see other birds happily eating, oblivious of the bird trap around them. Look carefully and you notice the rope attached to that bird trap. This glorious winter scene is framed by the housing of the villagers. A few trees on the left and the right of the picture also help to define the composition. The landscape behind the village speaks of distant fields as well as another village not too far away. A similar marvelous landscape fills the space of the haymaking painting. In the foreground, we see women and men hard at work, some with rakes on their shoulders, others with baskets of fruits and vegetables on their heads. In the lower left-hand corner, a man is fixing a scythe, while in the right-hand corner, a person sits astride a horse, holding a basket in their left hand and the reins in the right. A tree frames the right-hand side of the painting, while a huge rocky mountain frames the top left-hand side. Look closely, and you can see people upon that mountain. Proportions are not always accurate. Behind the people in the foreground are the workers gathering the hay, while behind them sit the village houses, as well as the church steeple and the hills and valleys that lie beyond the immediate view. Zero in on the images in each of these paintings, and village life comes to life. Some of the folks on the icy river appear to be fishing, others are just having fun. See, too, the birds in the trees, witness to this humanity. Look at the top of the painting, and you can practically feel the wind pushing through the landscape, whipping the trees. It is almost blinding. It is the snow and ice that makes the neighboring village close to invisible. In the haymaking masterpiece, we can see the carefully rendered clothing of the basket and rake carriers. Look closely at the three women with rakes and witness the young girl surrounded by two others, each one older than the next. This speaks to the effectiveness of Bruegel's rendering. In the middle of the picture, we become observers of the haymaking world. Two horses enjoying refreshment before they will eventually transport a wagon full of hay. Three men loading that hay up while the women rake and rake. Physical gestures, observant faces, it's all there, not to mention the varied hats that everyone must wear. And while the people toil, the landscape holds them with a range of colors from brown to yellow to green to blue to gray. A windmill in the background somehow connects to the wooden pole in the foreground, the rolling hills, the other village, the meandering river. These two paintings, one of winter, one of summer, both offer us future beings insight into a world of work and play in 1565 in the Netherlands and Belgium. What a privilege to be able to peek into this lovely depiction of the past.
Just terrific, terrific. I like the way you started with the children's book and the way it personalizes what you're saying. Just really, really striking. So the next one is Carol, which is this one.
Right.
Mm.
Yes, this is two very different self-portraits. Gregory Gillespie did numerous self-portraits. When asked why, he responded, "I'm always there and available and willing. The subject and observer are one, and that unity has made it so fascinating and productive for me through all the years." But I love that first part. I'm always there and willing and available. It's great. The painting on the left is Self-Portrait Foro Romano. It was done in 1969, and it's oil, tempera, and collage on board, although my recollection is that there's also a use of resin in the painting on the left to kind of give depth and transparency. It's 25 by 3/8 inches by 19 3/4 inches. The portrait on the right is Self-Portrait with Beret. It was done almost 20 years later, 1987, 1988. It's oil and alkyd. Is that how it's pronounced, Simon?
Yeah, I think so.
On wood, and it's 30 by 22, so just a bit bigger. Let me talk about Foro Romano. It's a highly complex portrait. First, there's a portrait within a portrait, a common occurrence in Gillespie's non-traditional self-portraits, such as this one. But this portrait is set in a window so that Gregory can look in and see how Gregory, the artist, is doing. And there's a collaged picture of the Roman Forum of the title in the lower right. Mm-hmm. Gillespie is young in the portrait, but he is also either feeling as old, see the beautifully painted old plastered wall, or as complicated as Rome. The collaged beach or pool scene seems to hang from the wall and is inserted and inserts a scene of joy onto his viscera. But other viscera seem to be exploding out of the wall or his body. And the possibly metal Y-shape structure is there to try and hold it all together, along with an angel pushing things up together and pins to tack parts of the viscera on. And the face squeezing up on an impossibly thin neck, or a martini glass, if you look closely, is a tight mess with people crawling into the open eye and the mouth, and the all-important wide open eye. For who can paint a self-portrait without a wide open eye? Of course, the other eye is closed with a seashell over it, looking inward. And he wears a checkered cap made of the tablecloth that is reminiscent of the cafes he liked in Rome and is draped from the window. Red Beret, however, painted 19 years later, is as far from Roma as one self-portrait can be from another. And it is much more reminiscent of most of his other self-portraits, except that it looks as if it might not be finished, but it is, because it's apparently in a private collection. Here you see the simple, quote, unity of the subject and the observer. Here you can imagine Gillespie looking in the mirror and painting exactly what he sees. Of course, what he sees may not be what anyone else sees. Only a few of his self-portraits include hats, but no others have red berets that I could find. And the red beret tells us that he knows he's looking at an artist. This face is brutally honest. When you turn your head at his age, you get loose folds in the neck, and the lines from the nose to the mouth have deepened. His skin is reddened as if from exertion, and he's unusually unkempt looking for his portraits. But the eyes are just as piercing as they have been in all his other portraits. And the look is challenging, either you or himself. The upper torso, clad in a white tee, is sketchy as if unimportant. And that's it.
Well, thank you. I just want to repeat that as good as these reproductions are, on my screen they look great. In person, the one on the left is 100 times better.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So much better. So, though that exhibit is only on until the end of the day, Saturday, if you can possibly make it, or if you wanted to see it again, I really recommend this. Um, okay, so the next one I have is Len, which is this one. Len.
Yeah, very good. So we have two works by Bruegel the Elder, both from 1567, both oil on panel, both approximately 4 by 6 feet. We have the Peasant Wedding on the right and Peasant Dance on the left. The Peasant Wedding and Peasant Dance have been written about extensively. We need only open the Wikipedia entry for the Peasant Wedding to learn how art historians have long debated the identity of the groom and the mystery of the third foot on the soup carrier in the red shirt. The Peasant Wedding hung in my living room when I was a boy, and for all its size and spectacle, it was little more than a peripheral backdrop to Vincent Price Week on the 4:30 movie and Bucky Dent's 3-run home run against the Red Sox in 1978 to give the Yankees the division title. So it's both nostalgia and novelty to study it with care. For all its boisterous activity, the Peasant Wedding is cohesive and balanced. The long diagonal of the table, falling gently from left to right. My gaze starts with the beer pourer on the extreme left, then moves to the indelicate child, to the two men bearing soup on a repurposed door, to the two musicians, the bride and her parents, and finally the convivial guests. I had never noticed the stealthy canine beneath the table on the far right, awaiting a serendipitous morsel to drop to the ground. And which one is the groom, anyway? The Peasant Dance is also dense with figures, but balanced. My gaze travels from the couple bounding in, stage right, to the musician and his inebriated companion, to the revelers. Some historians see a morality tale with gluttony, lust, and pride all in attendance, pride amusingly exemplified by a peacock feather adorning the hat of the inebriated fellow with the musician. Others see a simple depiction of peasant life. I find the diminutive figures in the lower left corner very out of place, as if Bruegel added them as an afterthought to fulfill a promise that he had just remembered. Other observations. Both images contain printed flyers, 127 years after the invention of the printing press. Nearly all guests wear a head covering, piety, fashion, or function. The narrow band of colors of the clothing, the simplicity of the wedding, a barn, a humble menu, a two-person band, and the revelers celebrating with the same gusto that we aspire to today. But how will these celebrations be remembered? There is no photographer to memorialize these events. In fact, they may never have happened at all. except for one man capturing a single moment with paint and panel, an entire photo album in a single image.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, very well done. Len, the Bruegel is starting to merge in my brain with Gillespie.
Hmm.
Uh, I I'm not sure if I'm not losing it, but it's starting to go merge together.
Hmm.
Um, so the next one is Kathy.
Okay. Um, okay, I wrote this out. I chose to write about Bruegel's Hunters in the Snow, dated 1565. The size is 46 by 63, oil on wood, and his children's games, dated 1560. Size is 46 and a half by 63 and a half, oil on wood. Both paintings have a high vantage point and employ the use of aerial perspective, especially seen in Hunters in the Snow. In each painting, there are numerous figures engaged in a variety of activities. In Hunters in the Snow, Bruegel uses strong overlapping diagonal lines in his composition, leading the eye from the foreground to the distant mountains in the background. The dominant color palette, which shows the waning light of a winter's day, is low chroma blues, greens, along with white and warm grays, which is accented by burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and burnt umber of the village structures. The horizontal elements in the middle ground and distance are balanced by the dark verticals of the foreground trees. This landscape is a composite of images from Bruegel's sketches of the Swiss Alps as he traveled to Italy. In this painting, the figures are engaged in the activities of daily life at the time, hunting for small game, preparing food at an outdoor fire, and the recreational activity of ice skating. In Bruegel's children's games, we have a bird's eye view of a chaotic collection of children at play. In this painting, the figures are dominant, while the village becomes the set or backdrop for the various games played. There are over 90 games that are represented here, including tug of war, walking on stilts, sack racing, hide and seek, leapfrog, rolling hoops, and etc., etc. The warm tones which dominate this painting's color palette are burnt sienna, vermilion, yellow ochre, and umber, accented by the complementary colors of blue and green. The strong contrast of hues and strong chromas are befitting the theme of this painting with its lively, playful characters. That's it.
Nice.
Um, I was just going to say something, and I forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry. Um,
That all the time.
it might come to me. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Um, uh, when we were speaking about Bruegel earlier, I said that I used the word eidetic to describe his memory, and I defined eidetic. And these two pictures are eidetic memory pictures to the nth degree. He never saw these scenes. These are constructed scenes. Um, and I don't know how you could do this without that type of visual memory. Um, so next, Kristen. So Kristen, this one.
Okay.
I should say by introduction, as I was leaving the gallery yesterday and I walked to the corner, someone called to me on 57th Street and 50, 50,
57th and Park.
57th and Park and called to me, and it was Kristen. And I walked back with her, and she hadn't been there before. I walked back to her and I said, "Your choices are so unusual," because I'd seen these. And I said, "Had you been there before to this exhibit?" And she said, "No." And I walked with her to be in front of these two pictures, and then I left. And so here's Kristen.
Thanks. I wish these were clearer as well.
I made them smaller. The smaller I could make them, the clearer they got, but I
Yeah,
didn't want to make them too small.
right. Great. Well, these are two of Gregory Gillespie's works. The first is and Doll in a Room, and it is 25 inches by 31 inches. And the one on the right is Porch, Landscape, Lizard, and Man, and it is 28 by 30. Excuse me. At first glance, Dog and Doll in Room appears to be a still and serene painting of a quiet, mostly empty room. While this is true in a sense, the details belie a more complex story in this space. The rustic, thick application of the muted but light colors of paint makes it feel old and weathered, but careful execution of the lines and angles creates real perspective here. The viewer is pulled inward by the many rectangular frames within frames within frames. The squares and rectangles on the floors, windows, and doors help to almost beckon entry, with the eye heading toward the window in the far back of the room, which leads to the outside world. But why is the viewer invited by Gillespie to peer into this room at this moment from this point of view? It seems a bit of a mystery. And once inside, while at first the dog and doll huddled in their respective corners seem like sweet details, they are far more complex than that. The dog is really just a muddle of brown paint, hardly distinguishable at all as a dog, were it not for the title of the work. The doll lies as if a child simply left it and went into the other room to play, but its carriage sits underneath it in a smashed heap, and up close, the center of the doll's eyes are frighteningly red, and where hands would be are merely stumps. What actually happened here? Where is the life, the child, the family? And what of the creepy fetus-like figure with a tail collaged in the frame at the top? It almost seems as if the top of the wall was cut open to reveal this creature within. Is this the thing that wreaked havoc on the doll? Is it hidden and peering down on what is left of its work? Or is it merely an innocent, much earlier imagining of the child that may have played there? Much, much earlier. These strange elements warn the viewer to stay out of this room. This painting is a tricky balancing act of a bright space that is ultimately haunting in its details.
Yeah, terrific, terrific.
Porch, Landscape, Lizard, and Man is also a strange collection of details. Mostly, it is a lovely scene of a section of a porch in the countryside with beautiful, beautiful mountains in the distance. The viewer is pulled in here by the almost life-sized scale of the elements on the porch, the angled, wide-open view, again, the many squares and rectangles that pull the eye in. This view is not hemmed in by an external frame, and one wonders what is beyond the bits of the floorboard and the structure in view. What is outside of this space? The thickness of the paint application and the bright and vivid colors make it seem like a freshened up old farmhouse that one might like to visit. Yes, there is a great deal of realism here, but what throws the image off balance is the very tiny self-portrait of Gregory Gillespie himself, pulling on his pants, with a shadow of darker paint surrounding him. What a moment to share. He is the same size as the thickly painted eerie lizard above him. The lizard actually has many similarities in shape and tone to the creature in the top of the other painting. Is it also peering down at tiny Gregory? Is he aware? What world is he living in? What exactly is happening right now? Did he just escape the grid behind him? While beautiful, a man mid-pant pulling up makes you want to turn away to offer him his privacy. Both of these paintings contain subjects that one might not expect to see together, and though they both invite the viewer to look, the viewer is also left with some confusion and a strange feeling of imagining what might be happening, what is beyond in space and time. Dog and doll in room is locked inside a closed world. Porch, landscape, lizard, and man opens up into the outside world. A curious mixture of an invitation tainted with the impulse to look away.
Kristen, I very quickly, I could only say that beyond your lovely face is something dark, ask a lot of questions and a whole other world. I hope you have a good sense of humor.
That was excellent, Kristen.
Terrific, terrific. So the next one is Ron, which is this one. Is Ron here?
I'm just unmuting myself, Simon. I was caught unaware that I was going to present, but the fact that people were enlivened my interest in these, and been taking notes. And what strikes me about Bruegel is his immense capacity, not only to render, but to render the spirit of a mood. That is, he can capture the bleakness of a winter day and the feeling of that, the joy of a wedding, the hunger for a feast. And here I think he's captured an emotion that has something to do with grandiosity, pomposity, and in some ways may have been a kind of metaphor and commentary on his wealthy patrons. He rendered two of these paintings of the Tower of Babel within about 2 years of one another, one a smaller version and one that's his typical 4 by 5 feet. The remarkable rendering of it is just astounding in terms of the detail and his very close knowledge of building technology of the mid-16th century. But what's so striking is the monstrosity of it. It's like some kind of cancerous tumor growing on the landscape. And here in the corner, the right-hand image is King Nimrod of Babylonia in the Bible, having an inspection tour of the project. And what Nimrod, the donor, is doing is, with his genuflecting subjects, is looking at inscriptions that are being placed on fresh marble that presumably glorify his reign. But behind him, the whole project is a metaphor for human folly. I was reminded of the comment that a camel is a horse designed by a committee, and the building itself shows features of construction and decay all at the same time. That is, that as they put this effort into growing higher and higher and more complex, the very base of the structure is starting already to fall apart.
Well said. Well said.
You get a sense that the failure of communication, which later becomes the termination of the project, that the miscommunication is already going on, and that the donor has absolutely no recognition of what he has achieved. It was interesting to me that both versions of this around the year 1600 were in the possession of King Rudolph II of Bohemia, who was the Holy Roman Emperor. And he was a fantastic collector. and was really fascinated with this.
Hmm.
But it also, I think, talks about the hubris of human effort, human activity, and I found it thoroughly engaging.
Well, when you were going on about this, I was thinking of, since we've seen a whole bunch of Bruegel paintings, I was thinking here is a polyglot mind and uh, populated by peasants. Quite striking. Um, so the next one is Anne Marie, which is this.
Oh yeah. Um, my intention and my thoughts were to actually see the paint. I wanted to see the paintings in person. So I picked these two because
Huh.
Harvesters is at the Met. They acquired it in right after World War One, and the Three Soldiers is at the Frick, and they acquired that in 1965. So I think the comparison with the two is that there's a luminosity to both of them that isn't captured by looking at the pictures here. If you were in their presence, you could see that the Harvesters is just illuminated by this golden sun, and the Three Soldiers is illuminated by that grisaille method of painting where it was just grades of black to white. In this case, brown is also included, but the two figures are illuminated in this very small painting. The size of it is only 12 inches by 8, and the Harvesters is about 4 feet by 5. So two paintings, two different sizes, but bursting with light, both of them. What I want to say about the Harvesters is that describing it like a story to me, I don't know if that's a correct way of doing it in terms of slow looking, but here it goes. It is a hot August day and it's harvest season. I have an aerial view of a hilltop where a group of hay harvesters are busy at work. The hay is tall, golden, just like the hot August sun, and abundant. Rows and rows have been cut, but there is so much more to do. It is noon, and so I see 9 women and men gathered under a sparse tree, sitting on cushions of hay, eating their lunch. There is a basket of bread and bowls full. They must have spent all morning in the field, so they are hungry and tired. One harvester doesn't have the energy to eat. He sprawls his body on the hard ground and sleeps. Another tired harvester is walking up from the field with an empty water jug to replenish. 3 men continue to cut rows of hay with their long-bladed tool called a scythe. The cut hay is laid down in piles, forming diagonal rows. 2 figures tie these piles together and haystacks are formed. A pear tree is in the upper corner of this hilltop, and pears are being harvested by 2 others. Walking down the hill to the town below are 2 men with the haystacks over their shoulders. The process is complete with the horse-drawn carriage on the road, taking away the many piles of hay harvested that day. What a labor-intensive endeavor. The scene is somewhat unsettled by the appearance of 2 black birds flying over the golden field. Perhaps they are messengers of some change coming to this community. This hive of activity on the hilltop is far away from the village below. The bucolic landscape below shows leisure activities being played by the townspeople, such as swimming and ball playing. The foggy harbor beyond extends this world to people from perhaps other lands. In this painting, Bruegel has shared a view of his world from a microscopic to a macroscopic perspective. He gives us information, and we're able to make our own conclusions. With the 3 soldiers, I said, It is just one of three known grisaille paintings by Bruegel. It is a monochromatic painting with tones of black, brown, and white. It is a small masterpiece of light, textures, and movement. The pose of the figures suggests a circular movement with the fifer in the forefront and the drummer moving into the background and the standard bearer looking upward while hoisting a flag. Light is focused on the two musicians against a dark background where the standard bearer stands. The fifer is whistling and the drummer is drumming. Their costumes are highlighted so one can appreciate the textures in the slashed billowy sleeves, pants, and decorated hats. The pebbly textured ground gives the scene a grittiness. This small masterpiece is a study in contrast. Its smallness and luminosity draws me in.
I thought your description of the reason for going to see these two is extremely interesting because you could see them in person. And the rest just quite striking. Anne-Marie, very striking. The next one is Rita, which is this. Oh, and Rita couldn't contain herself, so she chose three. So I should show you the third one as well. This is the third one, and this is the previous two.
Okay.
So if you haven't had enough of the previous two, you can always go to the third one.
That's right. We'll start with the happiest, the wedding dancers. The good old days. We are all invited to the party, rocking and rolling, heads bobbing, robust bodies rhythmically vibrating. The fun-loving local peasants and Bruegel propel us into the 16th century festivities. Go ahead, don your most vibrant garment, commune and flirt with friends old and new, trade talk and trash talk with fellow guild members, get tipsy, dance with the bride and groom, relish the feasting and frolicking without the confines of religion or class. The intensity of color and motion magnify the raucous joy. It is a communal celebration, unself-conscious, uninhibited, an ode to a buoyant, inclusive humanity. Fast forward to Gillespie's 20th century and his supremely disquieting style, his peculiar self-conscious intensity, his father's alcoholism, and his mother's mental illness. The party is definitely over. Joy and connection belong to another time. The smooth-skinned youth on the cusp of adulthood in Vincent by the Sea, Gillespie's son Vincent, is so near to the open arms of that brilliant, shimmering sapphire sea, that lovely embrace. But he remains apart, in the foreground, at once belligerent and nakedly vulnerable, his back to its promise of solace, daring us with his eyes and clenched jaw to push past him. I am already an outsider, he seems to speak from his guarded soul, but so are you. It's the human condition. Meditating double woman is perhaps the ultimate outsider. One who at first glimpse seems profoundly pained and untethered. Gillespie dives deep, painting her broken places, her split psyche, but also her meditative lotus position. He anoints what looks like a page torn from a kindergarten coloring book with vivid finger paint hues, scrawls, and bold strokes. It is a torturous riot of color and raw form, a mind cleaved in two, the hemorrhaging heart between multiple breasts, the bleeding womb, the kinetic energy of the arms, and the sun-yellow life force emanating from within and enveloping her, all presented with a childlike and terrifying primitivism. She is the damaged mother. She is the mad woman in Gillespie's attic. She is the fierce, levitating fertility goddess of creation. She is the artist's muse, the force behind his uniquely modern vision of disturbia.
Really, super striking. Uh, I don't really know how to comment on what you're saying, but this is going to sound extremely superficial. But for those of you who are new to the class or want to think about just the writing part, forget about the meaning part, but the writing is so austere. There's nothing extra. And so each adjective and adverb has a lot of punch to it, a punch that's not dissimilar than Gillespie. Rita, you should try to see this exhibit.
You know, I was going to go this week, but I got sick. I was sick the night of class and I'm still sick. So better now.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but I had every intention of getting there.
Yeah, what you did is terrific. Yeah, towards the top of what I've seen. Okay, so the next one is Susan. Susan,
Hi.
okay,
Yep,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so I got very interested in slow looking, and what you're about to hear is probably more like a slow crawl. And I don't even get to the whole painting, but I wanted to start on the left-hand side of this first triangle, the one that is closest to us. And if we start at the far left, we see that group tending a fire. The fire is not made of logs, but of bundles of straw. It looks like these folks are singeing something. They want quick, hot flames. And one man is lifting a table with a bucket, and perhaps he is getting ready to butcher the animal once it's been singed and the fur is gone, the hair is gone, and it's somewhat sterilized. Mm-hmm. Above this group hangs a sign, and luckily I could hone in on it. And it says, Dies ist zu den Herd, which is, this is the heart in, H-A-R-T. The figure of the heart, the stag, is there with a saint looking at the crucifix hovering between the stag's antlers. Saint Hubertus is the patron saint of hunters and hunting dogs. And there they are. And yeah, I was interested that one of us thinks they might be on their way to a hunt. I guess I'm going to say they're coming back. They look kind of cold and weary, and maybe the dogs look cold and weary too at first glance, though I think Bruegel was really quite humorous with these dogs. Some have heads and the body is obscured. Sometimes it's the body that's obscured. And you can spend some time trying to figure out, well, how many dogs are there? How many heads are there? And how many rears are there? And the tails are hilarious. They are so curly that maybe those dogs still have some energy to them. One of the reasons I think they're coming back is that the taller hunter between the first two trees has a fox hanging down his back. So the catch is a fox, an inedible creature, but a hunter itself. And so the hunters have caught a hunter. Perhaps they were trying to save the chickens or the rabbits. And then if you look at the hunter closest to us, you can see rabbit tracks in the snow going towards that bush and maybe on down the hill as a sign that, great, glad the fox is gone. Maybe that rabbit will survive. So it's hard to decide whether their hunt is a failure or not. And then, of course, the sign of Hubertus, the patron saint of hunters and hunting, it's only hanging by one hook. So I kind of love there's humor here. There's, I don't know, maybe ambiguity is too strong a word, but there's a back and forth that really delights me. Even though the painting itself, with those beautiful dark colors illuminated by the snow, against the snow, they seem so specific, so staid. And yet, if I'm looking and trying to figure out all the interaction between what's there, it's much more interesting. And I can even, right in the middle, why is that messy bush in the very middle of that lower edge? The canes are going everywhere. The snow seems to have been melting a little bit because there's dark earth showing. And is this a sign of thaw, of the promise of spring, fresh leaves, maybe berries? And then I thought, well, maybe Saint Hubertus would even say that those thorns remind us of the resurrection. And if you live in a temperate zone, the cycle of the seasons brings that up, something that all the people living in temperate zones experience: birth, maturity, death, and then life again. So if we, I don't, otherwise, I mean, there must be other reasons why that bush is there. Then if we follow the bush on down, we land suddenly very low on top of the water. And we're in a whole new area, sort of fields of ice, fields of frozen water. And I see the mill wheel there, totally frozen. It's going to be months before that mill wheel turns. And so absolutely no grain is going to be ground. And so I was wondering, is this a picture of, are we worried about having enough to eat? But we do have the fire singeing a creature. To be fair to Bruegel, way in the back, there is a chimney fire. I don't know whether you've noticed that. So the fire can provide food. It can also burn your house down if you have made too large a fire inside and the flames are going up and setting the roof on fire. But on the other hand, all those little tiny dark figures, each very individual, playing with tops, playing with, doing curling. Who knew that curling was going on in 1565? And they're not worried. They're not worried about existence. And so everything, all of this is united by those beautiful greens and grays. The water and the sky reflect each other. The shades under the trees, every branch of a tree is so beautifully delineated. And I just thought, there's a plethora held by this kind of perfect, harmonious, and shared beauty of the color, the palette, the brush strokes for every single branch of every single one of those hundreds of trees. And I was struck with someone finding Bruegel's eye in that the picture of death. And I was wondering if that magpie that has left the tree and is flying towards the crazy, uninhabited, fantastic mountains, if that isn't Bruegel himself.
Wow.
Wow.
Beautiful, beautiful. You're getting your money's worth on planet Earth. The next one I see is Mary, which is this. Mary?
Okay, hang on there. Okay. Bruegel's The Harvesters was painted with oil on wood in 1565 and is approximately 64 by 47 inches and currently resides at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. In the painting, we see late summer depicted in a vast landscape. In the foreground are threshers, peasants harvesting the wheat, and a group of them are sitting under a tree having a meal. One can see the fine details, the facial expressions and gestures, wrinkles in the clothing, spooning food from a bowl of porridge, drinking from a clay vessel. One of the characters lies in supine, resting from the hard work at hand. Peasants are walking in the field, and we see others bent over, fastening bundles of wheat. The trees obscure some of the distant view, but moving back across the fields, we see steeples and houses. People are playing on a large green. A road weaves its way over the distant hills and into the far reaches. The land stretches out into the water, a large inlet, and receding further back are mountains and sky and clouds, a horizon so vast one can almost feel the curve of the earth. The painting is complex and calming. What is more compelling? What is more compelling? The details of the earth alive with trees and fields of grasses, the rising and falling hills, the details of the lives being lived by these peasants? Or is it the vastness of the world, the soft gray sky, space that feels infinite? Together, it is the careful recording of this particular moment, this space and time. And remarkably, it feels like reality, as though we are standing up on a hill, taking in the view in its entirety. Gregory Gillespie's landscape with islands and sky was painted with oil on particle board in 1979 and is 12 and a quarter inches by approximately 35 inches. In both intricately realistic and abstract details, Gillespie has created a view of a coast with islands, green and inhabited with houses rising from the waters in the distance. In the foreground are trees and foliage, shadows and darkness. On the left, we see a pond reflecting the clouds and sky, and to the right is a dirt road leading to houses that overlook a harbor teeming with vessels. In the center left of the painting is a structure of stone or wood, perhaps, some organic material that seems to be morphing into a phantasmagorical sea-like creature. The overall narrative of the distant forested hills, the endless blue sky and sea expanse, the busy harbor on a bright day, subsumes the dark shadows and the frightful monster-like image. What is most compelling? Is it the enormous detail so finely rendered in tiny and accurate translations, or is it the pockets of surrealism laying open the uncertainty of this beautiful day? Or is it the vastness, the distant clouds and horizon? One feels very present in the confluence of this space, this time. Gillespie shares with Bruegel an ideational depth and an ability to elicit a visceral experience of the landscape and atmosphere. The way the air feels on your skin on a hazy autumn afternoon, or the fresh scent of the salty breeze on a bright early summer day. One knows that these paintings were created in 1565 and 1979, and yet looking slowly and carefully at them, it feels that the time and place is now.
Really, really well done. Really well done. You should feel very good. This is really good. Really good.
Oh, thanks.
And I said earlier that it seems to me that Bruegel is merging with Gillespie, or Gillespie is merging with Bruegel. So, Dean, are you here now? Dean?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
okay. So here we go.
Yeah.
This is the last one. This is Dean.
Okay. And 1 second here.
Dean,
I have
Dean is the fiddler on the roof. Okay, if you see flashes of light, that is Dean.
Yeah, this is me. I don't know. So I've been trying to work it in the haiku format, which basically is 3 lines, 17 syllables, and you try to make a little turn in the third line. So you have the triumph of death, Peter Bruegel. I have some haiku on that one. Peter's death triumphs. Skeleton armies arise, expired yet fresh. In death, bells are tolled against a fire-red night sky. No time for mourning. Each Bruegel scene lives. I wouldn't say all of Greg's. Some arrive embalmed. Theater and mass, a crow's view of humankind. Peter laughs with us. Each minute and weird aspect of humanity hangs with the laundry. Running out the clock, a ludist declares his love, throwing in his lot. Burning boats bear smoke, yet dead hordes march on to shore, while cross, which they bear. Red capes and armor prove no match for his reaper, and death gets his loot. Under a red cross, regular folks jam inside a mosh pit coffin. And here's for, okay, there's some more. Grotesque figures guard a hellish burning castle, heaven's antonym. Here no one is old. A child and a dog meet, a most cruel irony. Everyone must go, way too many paired with pain. Sleep this nightmare out. Line up in white garb. In life were they just as vile? That poor drowning man. And these on Gregory Gillespie. Greg painted his flats. They weren't all handsome flats. Maybe my flats art. Reflections in glass. The ajar door feels alive. But what's with that pair? Each hair on his face painted as though magnified. Real. I'm real. I'm real. Greg should be painting. He sits there, no brush in hand. What would Peter paint? Oh, it's so peaceful in a sea of denim blue with a forest floor. Running out of time, Greg worked in paint day and night. Now he's stuck in paint. Yellow-orange flooring warms the cool room and Greg's skin. Fire or ice, you choose. So that's my haiku on these two paintings.
In one of the last parts of the Gillespie, you said it seems so calm, something like that.
Yeah,
But
it's so peaceful.
yeah,
Yeah,
could you read that one again?
sure. Oh, it's so peaceful in a sea of denim blue with a forest floor.
Yes, the peaceful part is intriguing because uh, I think this is far from peaceful. Super,
Yeah.
super. I would just like to go back to, I know we're going a little longer, but I just like to go back to the whole group of you. Um, I'd like to take two or three comments on any of what you've heard. And anyone wants to say something, just raise your hand or get my attention or something. Or you might be too tired. Uh, Fantastic grouping of comments. So maybe I can call on someone. Uh, Bruni, Bruni, any thoughts on all this crazy stuff? I can't hear you.
Okay, I had to unmute myself. I
Okay,
thought it was fantastic. It was great.
okay, okay. Anyone? Um, John. Oh, I'm sorry, Rita.
I have a fun fact, a fun factoid. Vincent Gillespie was arrested on January 6th at that famous Washington insurrection.
Yes, yes. But I have a factoid for you, which is that he was freed by our president when he pardoned all the people.
Yep.
Um, um, I'm
Is
not
he
sure if that's
related to
I'm not
Gregory?
I'm not sure if that's a good way to end this class, but I think that Dean's point about his Gillespie's background being very peaceful uh, seems a very good way to end. Uh, Thank you. This was great. This was really
Great class.
far
Thank you.
far beyond
Amazing.
what I could have thought. Uh, and, and oh, the one thing that I should have said to start with, in fact, I was discussing this with Renee, and um, we were talking about how self-conscious some of you feel about writing. And the thing that I feel is that you are all looking at the same imagery, but through your prisms. And your goal is your prism, your prism. And your goal is to make your prism better and better, more and more interesting, but it's your prism. It's not someone else's. So that's what you have to think about. What is your point of view and how you can uh, um, make it stronger, more austere, more you, you. Sarah, you want to say something?
I do. I did not write anything at the moment, but I'm just gobsmacked by everyone's contributions tonight. The thoughtful observation, and I see art all the time, probably twice a week, but I think this is going to teach me a different way of looking.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I was just very impressed by everyone. It was
Yeah,
beautiful.
no, thanks, thanks. And Sarah, you should know that Dean is up on the roof somewhere in Minnesota, literally in the gutter, in the gutter. So I'll see you next week. I'll see you next week.
What are we doing next week?
This is just great. Okay.
Simon, what are we doing next week?
Next week we're doing the conjunction of Kiefer and Van Gogh, and we'll do that for 2 weeks.
Great.
Then there's a Thanksgiving break, and for the last class, I'd like to repeat this idea, and I'll give you the various topics.
Great.
I think the wideness of the topics made this better, and I'll try to do that again the next time. The topics here went as far as Susan's description of Bruegel to Rita's description of I'm not sure what.
Neither am I.
So if you are closer to York than Rita is, try to see this exhibit. I was speaking to the gallery director, and she said that, I think she said the last exhibit was maybe 10 years ago. And so it doesn't happen that often, and it really looks different in person. So I recommend it highly, and have a nice few days. I'll see you next Wednesday.
Great.
Okay. Thank you, Simon.
Terrific.
Bye, everybody.
Really
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Terrific.
It was fantastic. Thanks.
Thanks, Simon. See you.
Terrific. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Kathy, you did great. Kathy, you did great. I'll see you next week.